Okay, Bill, now we're at the bench and we're looking at your transmission. I'll show you first the metal that's in the pan. As you can see, there's a lot of metal on the magnet, but there's just all kinds of metal debris throughout the pan. This is steel that's in there, and it's just to give you an idea of the color and the you know, it's just really gritty. So that's how we knew that the transmission was in big trouble, besides the way it was driving. Now, because of that metal that was caused by a bearing failure in the front planetary, this front planetary assembly has a bearing. It's a Torrington bearing with races, and that bearing came apart, and all the pieces of the bearing ground between the carrier right here and the teeth that are busted up right here. They're all chewed, and the gear that it goes into is the ring gear, and there's metal all chewed and ground up into this hub, and in the ring gear there's actually a piece of the bearing in there. This planetary assembly slides into the carrier hub right here, and then that goes together. But that damage was in between the two parts and destroyed both the planetary carrier, the ring gear, and the hub on the inside. Also, the mating gear that goes in the center here, the sun gear, which is part of this assembly, as you can see by looking at the gear, it's also chewed badly. So of course it'll need to be replaced as well. It's got actually pieces missing out of the teeth. And of course the bearing that was in there will need to be replaced. There's thrust washers that have gotten metal between them, and as you can see on the surface here, they're all chewed, so all the thrust washers will have to be replaced. This assembly goes into this drum. This is called the input drum, and you can see how much metal grindings are in there. We're going to have to completely disassemble this drum and clean it, as well as the entire transmission. That's the drum that holds the 3/4 clutches, the forwards and the coast clutches. Your 3/4s are just burned, and of course they're full of metal impregnation. Same thing, this plate ground on top here, this pressure plate, and there's a lot of metal got into the clutches and burned the forward clutches as well. Once that filter was plugged, even these forward clutches are burned really badly. Your sun shell right here, if you can see the teeth, try to hold it up. The teeth are almost sheared off. I'm going to try to change the angle just so you can see how much those teeth have just got a razor edge on them. And try to hold it up to the light so you can see. Anyway, those teeth are just about sheared off, and so this drum will have to be replaced as well, this sun shell drum. Now where the band was riding on the input drum, it got all that metal that was floating around, got impregnated in the band, the 2/4 band, and destroyed the surface right here of this drum. It's chewed all the way through like a record. Now, one other thing, your electronic solenoids, there was so much metal going through that the shift solenoids and the pressure solenoid here act like a magnet, electromagnet, and the metal is just plugging all through pardon me, all through your solenoids. So there's 5 solenoids, your 2 PWMs, your 2 shift solenoids, your pressure solenoid, as well as there's 6 solenoids. There's a lockup solenoid will also need to be replaced, and that's it here on this harness, and that comes with this harness. That's how that gets bought, but it's just full of metal. Every one of the solenoids. We'll be able to clean the transmission, but these hard parts, the sun shell, the planetary gear, the pump assembly, and the torque converter are all contaminated with metal and damage to this drum. So those are your hard parts.